Hi, time again to take a deep dive into one of my garages. This time it's going to be Supercar's Garage 2. This is of course directly from my garage tour, so if you've not seen that, please do watch that first. Prepare a good drink before you start. Just before we dive in, take a quick look at the colour of this Ferrari, because that will be of use later. Kicking off with the Cheetah Classic, or the Ferrari Testarossa. Of course, Rockstar, in their non-copyright infringement wiseness, decided to remove the massive side strakes that make this car so distinctive. So although the shape is correct, I don't always think Testarossa when I look at it, and I find that a bit sad. I've painted it in a rarer blue Chiaro colour, and the hex for that is down below, and I think with the tan interior it has come out absolutely superbly. Last week I would often tell you of the Pegassi or Lamborghini vehicles that would bite you in the corners. Well, I'm pleased to say that's not the case with this one. This has lovely handling, it's a really enjoyable drive, and of course it's pretty much top of the sports classic class for racing as well, so yeah, this is one of my favourites. I really like this car. Well, you can see below what Car Magazine said about the Gemballa MiG U1, how to ruin your Ferrari Enzo. So, did I ruin mine? Well, I don't think so. We have a proper Enzo on the top right, and it's quite difficult to get close to that with the Cheetah because of the black roof on the Cheetah, if nothing else, although the general shape is okay. I went with the U1 partly for variety, something different to do from previous years, and also because there's other things such as the air outlets behind the front wheels, the spoiler, things like that that exist on the U1 that were available in in-game customization. And so, I think it's possible to get a bit closer to the U1 than it is to the Enzo. However you choose to build it, you are suffering a bit on the IRL looks, but it is a lovely car to drive. It's got good handling, it goes well over the bumps, it sounds good as well, so overall, this is still a nice car. When I got seriously back into the game, I bought the Criminal Enterprise pack, which includes this Turismo R as part of it. As my first supercar, and my only one for a while, it's got a lot of miles on it compared with some of the other cars in this garage. Now, I have taken a little bit of a liberty with the wheels because I preferred them to the ones in the game that are better. There's also been a slight change to the colour. I wanted this extremely rare blue Elettrico colour, but I used a rolled steel pearl and I don't think it's really worked. I've changed it now to a blue pearl, and when you watch the outro you'll see it with the blue pearl, and I think you'll agree it looks a lot better. I really enjoy driving this car. It's overall a very fast and capable car. Just now and again though, it can adopt a severe oversteer angle that perhaps you weren't expecting, and I'll make sure to include at least one of those in the outro for you. But it's fast and fun and I love it. Moving on now to one of my favourite cars in the entire game, which is the Grotti Itali GTO, the Ferrari 812 Superfast. Now, I've made mine on the NOVITEC N-Largo version just because it allowed me to add a couple of go faster parts. The reality is that NOVITEC do an awful lot for the performance of the car, but they also can change the looks a lot, and the N-Largo is 14 centimeters wider than the original car, so I may have been a little bit cheeky here. However, at the end of the day, this car is only about 80% superfast anyway, so I felt quite justified in calling it a different version. I have a full review on the car, which I'll link down below, but in summary, I love the way it drives. Not only a very high speed and a great acceleration, but a not quite perfect way of dealing with the bumps, and it adds to a sort of massively fast and fun through the town, almost out of control feeling. I absolutely love it. It is of course also right up there towards the top, maybe it is the top, I can't remember, of the sports car table for racing, so you probably have one. If not, buy one. Moving on then to another top car for the sports class, the Itali RSX, or the Ferrari SF90 Stradale. Now this is another one that I managed, like some Lamborghinis last week, to configure myself. I chose Giallo Striplo Strato, I hope that was right, for the yellow colour. Now, for the garage tour, I drove it out in sunlight with no pearl. I thought it looked lovely and I put it in there, but watching this back it did seem a little flat. So I changed it and added a shadow silver pearl, and that's how you will have seen the car on the intro. And I think that just lifted it properly, so if you're going for this colour, that is how I would do it. Now, I've reviewed this car before, back in the gaming headset microphone days, and I really majored on the point that it can be unstable over the bumps, and this is the downside of that car compared with the GTO. The GTO hits the bumps, jiggles around, feels fun. The RSX can hit the bumps and just disappear off into the scenery somewhere, so it does have that downside. Well, moving on now to the Pagani Huayra, which in game is the Pegassi Osiris. I never bought this car. I just thought that with the headlights being wrong and one or two other details, I don't know, I couldn't spend the money on it. But then I won it. I can't remember how, whether it was the wheel or with tuner races, but having been gifted one, I thought I'd better keep it. I've been a little free with the facts on this one because I wanted to build l'ultimo, the last one, and I was able to do the black and the blue circles around the wheels, but of course I couldn't do that silver that's also on the body, and by having the secondary down below I had to have it above. But I felt that in isolation, with almost nobody remembering at all what this particular one would look like, it would at least evoke the spirit of the last Huayra off the line, even if it wasn't a perfect look. I think it's come out nicely, and you know, the car drives really, really well. But my advice to you would perhaps to be to go for more of a single coloured car if you wanted to get a little bit more accurate. The Pegassi Zorrusso is next, and this is of course the Italdesign Zerouno. And you may have wondered, why this livery? What have you done here? Well, in the first year I did one of the 5 coupes that were made. They're effectively, by the way, based around Huracan internals, and look great. In the next year I made one of the 5 Duetta models, one of the open models, because that's a nice feature of this car, is you can actually have the open roof one as well. Well, now I'd used both of those up, so I searched very hard this year and I found this photo, and it says test car on it. I'm hoping it is one of the actual test cars for the Zerouno. I don't really know, but the livery here was obviously inspired so closely by that one that I felt justified in making this particular example. This is a pretty pleasant car to drive, but it can bite, and overall, given that I've never been the hugest fan of its looks anyway, this is not my favourite in the garage. We next have the 3 Koenigseggs in the game, and I highly urge you to watch a fairly recent review I did where I compared all 3 and worked out the best one. This one looks different from the review now, the Entity XF, based on the CCXR Special 1, and as I read on the internet, sometimes I think they made 1 and sometimes I think they made 2 in this very specific colour. It's a crew colour and it's come out fantastically. This car is well under $1 million and it drives superbly. I really enjoy this car, and if you don't have one, get one. I think you will enjoy it as well, especially if you do it up like this one. Our next car is unfortunately blighted by those advanced handling flags, which are anything other than advanced, so you keep getting it bouncing off rev limiters and changing gears, etc., and being slowed by bumps. It's the Entity XXR, which is based really on the Koenigsegg Agera. Now, I made mine on the Agera XS. There were only 2, one was orange and one was red. And as my next car is orange, I made this one, the red one. The code is there. I should perhaps explain, for all these cars, they tend to look a little duller indoors, and a lot of my crew colours look too dark. But you'll see when they're pulled out into the sunshine, they do come out right. So you'll have to trust me a little bit, or maybe go back to reviews of the cars to see them outside, to see the full colour. Anyway, I like this car, but I don't like it as much as the previous one, so I think more of a collector's item, to be fully honest. The last car in this garage is the Entity MT, or the Koenigsegg Jesko. You can get it in the Absolute or the Attack form. Attack is the track-orientated one. They give the parts for both. That's the one I made. Now, it's really the twin of the previous car. It's almost exactly the same car with these different and I think prettier clothes on. So it has the same unfortunate handling flag issues as that car. Of course, if you're making a Koenigsegg collection, you're absolutely going to have this regardless of the 2-point-something million that it costs. But for everybody else, I think this would be a fairly easy skip, to be honest with you. Got a chance to see that blue Elettrico paintwork out in the sunshine with its revised blue pearl on the Turismo R. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I told you it can bite, and now you've seen it. So this concludes the deep dive number 2, Supercars 2. It's mainly British and German supercars in number 3 for next week. Again, we're still very early in this series, so I would really appreciate comments on the format. I'm specifically wanting to find out if I'm saying too much or too little about the cars, or if there is anything else specifically you would like me to talk about or to show, because there's plenty of time to refine the format moving forward. Otherwise, please, if you got any value from it at all, however small, do hit that like button. It would so much help me out. And as always, thank you so much for watching.